You're watching the Chaos Protocol on Transplanar RPG, an all-transgender, people-of-color-led dark fantasy TTRPG show set in an original non-colonial, anti-Orientalist multiverse. If you like what you see, please consider pledging to our Patreon to support the show and get access to a patron-only after-show, early podcast episodes, GM notes, character sheets, and even the chance for your tabletop OC to cameo in our series. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy. The Chaos Protocol is a dark fantasy series that may contain content that is triggering for some viewers. Content warnings for this episode include alcohol, drinking, heights, falling, environmental disasters, gambling, and references to sex. Arc 2, Episode 7. The Truth Can Hide. From Carved Inside an Empty Urn by Connie Chong. All things considered, Hun Xiaocheng was having an okay day. They'd found the Western Wind God's secret cachet of wine. They ate a breakfast of kings from the empty divine kitchens. Even Goose was behaving, mostly. And now, as the sun reaches its zenith in the midday sky, we find Xiaocheng returning to the Rui town square, one of many abandoned plazas in the City of Heaven. This one is a home base of sorts, far away enough from the royal palace to not remind them of the, well, everything, but close enough to the comforts of food, wine, and a silk-trimmed bed. In the center of the Rui town square, Xiaocheng sits at the low table they pilfered from some administrative building or other, shuffles a deck of cards, and deals themselves and Goose a starting hand for Shengji. Goose ruffles his feathers, chews his cards, and as for Xiaocheng, they study their opponent over the tops of their own fanned-out cards. Goose is, well, a goose. There's no other way to slice it. Yesterday, Xiaocheng had tried putting him in robes, a little outfit, tassels to match their own, anything to cure the overwhelming boredom and anxiety of being the only person left in the City of Heaven, but Goose had refused, and now here he was, wasn't he? Butt naked and proud of it. Honk! Xiaocheng sighs deeply. They shake their head. The orange tassels dangling from their ears sway from side to side. 鹅哥，我已经告诉你了，你不能喝酒。Honk! 为啥？为啥？因为你是蛾子啊。Honk! Goose dives for the gourd. Not the one at Xiaocheng's hip, but the smaller, uncracked one on the table, full of the Western Wind God's secret wine. But Xiaocheng deftly snatches it away. 酒是人先邀神的乐趣。你是动物，这也不是坏事啊。你应该 Boom! Xiaocheng flinches. Their orange eyes go wide. They spring to their feet, magic tensing around their body, and then... Honk! Goose bravely takes off toward the west, wings flapping, mouth full of cards, half running, half flying in the direction of that explosive noise. Xiaocheng tries grabbing him, but only gets a fistful of feathers and a lot of air. 鹅哥! But it's too late. Goose is rounding a corner, picking up speed, fleeing the scene. No, running toward his destiny. Xiaocheng hesitates for half a moment, half a second, their heart pounding in their throat. What was that noise? Are they not actually alone? Was someone else left behind? Who could it be? How? When? But there's no time to dawdle on these inquiries. They nod to themselves, take one last swig of wine, and set off running after Goose. And the rest is, as they say, history. Xiaocheng stands before your party, their torso bent in a steep, respectful bow, as they raise their brilliant, huge orange gaze. That final sentence trails from their lips. I am Hun Xiaocheng, the courtier of four symbols, and, well, until the three of you arrived, the last person left in the City of Heaven. And this is Goose. Xiaocheng gestures at the goose called Goose. Goose is currently nosing at the hem of Xainan's robes as though looking for more treats, and Xiaocheng continues. Don't mind him. He really is quite lovely, if rather temperamental. Not much of a conversationalist, though. But enough about my companion. What about the three of you? You don't seem like gods. Are you cultivators? And now, I'd like to properly introduce City of Mist to everyone here at the table, because as Xiaocheng's brilliant orange eyes fall upon each of you, they don't just see what's on the surface, they see what's underneath. In City of Mist, which is the system we're playing for Arc 2, the players embody rifts, who are ordinary people comprised of a logos, which is their ordinary, regular Joe, mortal side, and a mythos, which is their magical side, which typically manifests as a real-world myth or fairy tale. So your logos is something like you're a doctor, you're a gambler, you're a wanderer, and your mythos would be something like King Arthur, a werewolf, a storm god. Each rift is further subdivided into 4 theme cards. These are abilities, personality traits, objects, goals, occupations, routines, or basically literally any conceivable topic that relates to either your mythos side or your logos side. So let's say your rift logos is gambler and your mythos is storm god. So you could have 2 theme cards related to being a gambler, like bullshitter, which is a personality trait, and high roller, which describes your access to wealth. And your 2 remaining theme cards could be related to your mythos being a storm god, such as thunder and lightning, which is a suite of abilities, and call of the seas, which might reference your destiny. Each of these theme cards grants you 3 power tags to start, which you can add to your rolls when you attempt to make moves in order to get a better outcome. There are a lot more rules than that in City of Mist, but that's all we need to know for now. So with that in mind, let's start with Xainan. What mythos and logos are you defined by here in the City of Heaven, and what 4 theme cards correspond to each?
Xainan has a logos of the lone survivor, and his mythos is the ghost of Kaseki. His logos themes, he has 3. The first one is the lone survivor of Kaseki, which is a defining event. His identity the second one is his personality, everyone and no one. And his third one is his bow, the birdsong bow, specifically. And then his mythos, the less seen part of him, dust to dust, an adaptation theme.
Ooh, yes. I believe in City of Mist terms, Xainan is a touched rift, which means they're mostly logos. It's like 3 of the theme cards refer to their mundane side, and only 1 of them refers to their magical or mythical side. And so they're kind of touched by the mist, but not fully walking into their mythos yet. Lovely. Let's go over to Seir. What about you? What are you made of?
Alright, so Seir's logos is the Little Hunter, while his mythos is the Doomed One. He has 4 theme books split right down the middle between logos and mythos. The logos theme books are The Chosen One's Shadow, which is a defining event, The Little Hunter, which is a training type logos theme book, and his mythos theme books are Divination, which is called The Omen Speaker, and Expression, Doom Incarnate.
Wow, that's so normal, Seir. So
Don't
Seir...
worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, that denial's working out real well for you, isn't it?
It's fine.
Seir is what's known as a borderliner. So 2 logos, 2 mythos. You're kind of like right in the middle, balanced between these 2 halves of yourself. So now let's pan over to our final surviving member of Strike Team Nova, Lumièra. What about you?
God, Connie, that is a kick in the fucking chest every time. Okay, whew, yeah. So Lumièra's logos is Combat Medic, and her mythos is Tungal's Chronergist. So her theme books as well are split right down the middle. For her logos, she has what's called Combat Medic, which is a training theme book, as well as Lumièra's Oath, which is what's considered a mission theme book. And then for her mythos, we have Tungal's Pocket Watch, which is a relic out of the relic theme book. And then she has Budding Chronologist, which is an expression theme book.
Yes, excellent. Okay, so now that we know how your personas are manifesting in the City of Heaven, we now turn our gaze back to those bright orange eyes as Xiaocheng goes on to say, so, are you cultivators? And if so, how did you get here?
Yes, Seir, strangely enough, is the one that steps forward and starts speaking. Completely out of character for him, and everyone in himself realizes this as well. Yes, we are cultivators. I'm Seir. These are my companions.
Hey.
And we just showed up.
You just showed up?
Yes,
But-
we are cultivators. Apologies for my friends here. I don't think they're familiar with a goose as before.
Well, while this is going on, Xainan's trying to like introduce himself, but he's also like a little bit like enamored with the goose that's trying to like dig through his stuff, and so he's kind of stuck between like crouching down and like opening up his robes to show the goose he doesn't have any snacks, but also trying to like participate as a proper agent and an adult person in this conversation. And he's kind of like half bent over and he kind of straightens up. Yeah, we just came in on the dais back there.
The Ascension Gate? But I
Yes.
sealed all of them. How did you get through? And on whose summons did you arrive?
Actually,
Yours.
Yours, yeah.
Mine? Oh, but I'm just a lowly courtier. This doesn't make any sense. I've never heard of you three. Seir and what are the two of you called?
Lumièra.
Lumièra.
And this
Xainan.
is
Xainan. Well, it is definitely an honor and a pleasure to meet you, though I don't know how I didn't. Are you? And there's a pause as all three of you see a trickle of suspicion start to darken Xiaocheng's face. They don't move away, but they do lean back slightly. I don't believe I sent summons to anyone.
sometimes our will alone can trigger a calling, whether intentional or
Calling.
not.
Well, the three of you must have had extra powers to push through those ascension gates. Well, because of all the disasters in Yaolan, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
And that
we're...
suspicion begins to trickle away from their face. They lean forward again, and a look of deep sadness and a little bit of anxiety begins to settle around their angular, striking face. Oh, yes, the disasters. Oh, I'm so
Remind
sorry
me
about that.
again.
Yes?
How does that cut off access to the city of heaven? I never did
Well-
quite get that straight.
The disasters themselves didn't. I made an executive decision to seal off the gates myself. It seemed the safest thing to do to prevent the demons from knocking on the City of Heaven's door, seeing an empty expanse and deciding to take over. So it seemed like a necessary trade-off.
Yeah, this seems like a very confusing time for everybody involved. You said empty? There's no one else.
Yes. No,
Just you. Has
yes.
Have you been here while has it always been empty?
No.
Well,
Oh, no. No. This This is a recent development, you see. Oh, I suppose if the three of you ascended from Yaolan, you really wouldn't know, but before I tell you exactly what's been going on here, do I have your word that you won't speak of this outside of our present company?
There's no
Seir
one to
looks
tell.
around.
I don't know anyone else here outside of my associates and you.
And I,
Seir literally pans around to look around.
Yeah, it's
while he does that,
completely
Xainan
empty.
looks down at the goose. You won't tell anyone, will you?
That's a no. Okay then. Very well. 7 days and 6 nights ago, on the evening of the Emperor's proclamation, the mist thickened around the entire city of heaven, out of nowhere. I couldn't see 3 boo ahead of myself. And then the mist thinned, and then everyone was gone. Just like that. There was no violence, no bloodshed, everyone just vanished right into the mist. Well, everyone except me. And I have no idea why. I've been trying to figure it out this entire past week. I'm not embarrassed to admit I even tried shouting out loud for help, but obviously I got no answer, unless that's how the 3 of you heard me. Did you hear me shouting from heaven?
Lumièra doesn't
a
say
sense.
anything, but her eyebrow quirks up and she kind of like leans forward as in like a, you would know.
Well, the 3 of you must be very esteemed and powerful cultivators indeed. Right on the cusp of ascension yourselves, I must say.
Lumièra grins.
Thank you.
This mist that came through, you don't think it had anything to do with the festival, do you?
I'm not sure. The festival... Well, yes, festivities were being put up all day until around evening time, mere hours before the Emperor's announcement, and then the mist came and everyone left, so maybe something in the festival caused it, but I wouldn't know.
What was he
Lumièra
gonna
walks
announce?
around.
What were they gonna announce?
Oh! And a shadow falls across Xiaocheng's face before they lift their eyes back up and say, well, like I mentioned, the morning that everyone vanished, the Emperor made a surprise proclamation. It shocked everyone in the city, myself included, despite serving at her side for the better half of 8 centuries, but no matter. She announced that she was finally ready to declare her virtue. And Xiaocheng drops that like it's a bombshell that anyone would understand what that meant, including 3 mortals from Yaolan.
Oh.
I can't believe.
Xainan looks at Seir like maybe he
How
knows what's going
did
on.
she come to that decision? He said, like, Seir, I think internally catches that moment, actually. He's had a great amount of experience watching as a wallflower around the space and noticing the subtleties that folks give off. And instead of doing what he does best and listening in and just focusing while the other 2 dredge truth from this person, he pushes all that instinct aside and makes conversation instead. How did she come to that decision? Was she... I mean, you said that the Emperor was about to make a proclamation. Did they also disappear?
The Emperor?
Yeah.
Yes, Emperor Lungdu is gone as well, which is not a good sign. If a force or a person could vanish the Emperor, the immortal ruler of heaven, But why was I left behind? I'm sorry, it's been a very hard week.
Lumièra's been walking kind of around in circles. Her hands are tied and ringing behind her back as she's walking around and listening. Well, clearly there is some type of higher purpose as you still being left singular amongst the rest to tell the tale or otherwise. You said it was a celebration.
Yes.
I would consider that the town would be very noisy up until
yes.
that time. So when the mist
Many
came,
fireworks.
was there no distinct sounds or noises that you heard? Were there any type of tracks or things that were left behind, or was it just someone was there and then wasn't any longer?
Well, it was turning to nighttime, and the Emperor had said that morning that she was going to announce her virtue at night, so the festivities got more and more elaborate and enthusiastic as the hours wore on, and the sun kissed the horizon, and the moon and the stars came out. And as, of course, is customary in the City of Heaven, the mist did thicken around nighttime. This isn't necessarily so unusual, but the degree to which the mist coagulated, I've never seen anything like it. It's like one moment we were here, there was a nice cover of fog all around us, and then I couldn't see even my hand that I stretched out in front of my body, and then the mist thinned and everyone was gone. I suppose in terms of a noise, it was less so an extra special noise and more so the absence thereof. When the mist thickened to such a degree, everything became very muddled, very just blended together. And then silence.
So the mist thickened to a point where it muddled sound, almost as if being underwater.
Yes, I suppose one could say that. Or as though walking in a dream.
Dream.
You have an idea, Lumièra?
I'm articulating in my brain right now.
Well, we'll leave you to that then. Seir looks over at Xainan, and I think he raises an eyebrow over the weird repetition of declaring her virtue, but you see that this young boy with those hesitant blue eyes keeps biting his lip, trying to figure out how to dredge that up, and he keeps looking at you. Maybe to save him from this predicament that he is in.
There's a pleading behind Xainan's eyes, come on, this is your thing. You just find out strange information, you just kind of pull it in. That's how this works, right? And he's looking and seeing the panic instead, and he kind of very subtly just inclines his head slightly. Forgive me and my newness to this place, but you said the 4 symbols. What is that domain, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, yes. Well, it's more so just a description of the 4 directions of all of heaven, north, south, east, and west. I'm the courtier of all 4 directions, all 4 symbols. Therefore, I have no allegiance to any specific person outside of the Emperor herself. I have no political aspirations of my own, so I serve everyone with equal and equivalent diligence, acting as a imperial liaison of sorts. Like I said, my only reporting supervisor is Emperor Lin Tu. Well, until now, I suppose. I don't know where the Emperor went.
Do you have any other peers that only report to her?
Only one other peer, the head administrator, Twinsing.
And Twinsing is gone.
Yes, Twinsing is gone. Everyone is gone, even the top candidates for the position of virtue, of which, of course, Twinsing is one.
Xainan narrows his eyes at the position of virtue, just trying to parse out as much information as possible, but trying to work with a subtle hand, which not always his strong suit. The candidates, where were they in all of this?
Well, last I heard, they were in their particular favored stomping grounds, preparing for the festivities in their own way. Each of them, I think as a show of confidence, was attempting to both prepare in the event that they were chosen and in the event that they were not.
Quite an honor to be chosen.
Yes. Oh, yes, an immense honor. The greatest one could hold outside of being emperor yourself.
Then why do you look so sad?
What do you mean?
Your face fell when And Seir looks at the other 2, realizing that he's put his foot in his mouth once again. When you said the Emperor declared her virtue.
Yes. Well, it's more so, I suppose, it's twofold. One is that, well, things won't ever be the same again. I suppose after the virtue is selected, whoever fills that seat will be guiding the city of heaven to their particular aspirations, their particular preferences. The emperor will, of course, be taking a step back, still ruling, but the virtue will eventually become her successor. And the other reason is, I must admit, rather petty and personal and frivolous, and I needn't bore the three of you with its details.
Could be important. You're here, aren't you?
Well, I suppose I am. I suppose a small, petty, selfish, and unworthy part of myself enjoyed the rhythm that the Emperor and I had cultivated over these past over 8 centuries of knowing each other. So the virtue, of course, would become the Emperor's new confidant, her champion, her spokesperson, and I would still do my work. I would still be a bureaucrat. I would still be a court liaison, but have less of a connection with the Emperor from there on out.
It's a hard thing to lose.
Oh, well, I've always known that my position was not going to be permanent ever since the role of virtue was declared, well, during the very beginning of the game.
Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
Xiaocheng cocks their head to the side, blinks at you, Lumièra, those big orange eyes fixing upon you, and a glimpse of authentic empathy rises in their face. No, it doesn't. But regardless, this is quite the conundrum I have found myself in, so I am very grateful that the three of you have arrived, no matter the circumstances, and the ability for you to breach through the sealed gates. Again, the three of you must be very competent to do so.
Or lucky.
You honor us. Well, I suppose then the next step might be to just try and look up these locations, see whether there's any trace of the candidates. What do you think, both of you? They're the closest to everything at the heart of this.
Have you
getting
been-
somewhere closer? I think getting somewhere closer to that range would be very smart. Lumièra's eyes haven't fell off of Xiaocheng though. That tone switch between something solemnly hurting them, but refocusing to the mission at hand, she gets it. And not weirdly is empathetic, but kind of softens a bit. She's observing them while also trying to parse what's happening.
Well, Seir, your suggestion is actually quite good. I was going to suggest that to the three of you if you hadn't come up with it yourself. So, these past few days, I have not just been simply sitting idly upon my hands. I have spent days scouring the city by myself, but alas, I am but a single soul. I haven't been able to cover nearly as much ground as I'd like, and besides, it's possible I might have missed important things in the places I did look. So, if I were you, yes, I would start with the stomping grounds of the 4 most powerful people in the city of heaven, aside from the Emperor himself. Like I said, the candidates for the position of Emperor's Virtue. First, there is Yan Zhiling. She is the gentlewoman scholar. She founded and stewards the Vermilion Library, the City of Heaven's greatest repository of knowledge and art that I've surely ever seen. And then there is, of course... Sorry,
Seir stares at Lumièra.
Xiaocheng's eyes twinkle with delight as you say that, and a smile grows slightly larger on their lips as they continue. After that, there is, of course, Lu Hua, the blacksmith's apprentice. Though an apprentice, she is very charming, very honest, and pretty much everyone in the city likes her. She studies under Gang Xuejiang, who runs the White Forge. Both of them work there all the time, hammering away. It's quite a sight, or rather sound, to behold when they're actually here working the forge. And then there is Mu Chunxing, which I mentioned earlier. They are the dutiful head administrator of the city. They spend their time in the Azure complex that surrounds the royal palace itself, plugging away at their bureaucratic responsibilities. You'll find all kinds of records, censuses, and ledgers there, all kinds of paperwork. And finally, there is Langhui, the heavenly liaison. She is the de facto leader of the Black River. It's a water town in the lower layers of the city. He's in charge of diplomatic relationships between the sister realms on behalf of heaven, including to the underworld, though everyone around here also knows him as an unofficial information broker. Really, you can't cough without Langhui knowing about it.
Sounds like they might know a thing or two about what happened.
Yes, most certainly, if they were here.
Start.
Those are your prospects.
Yeah, I think the broker might be a great place to start, just to, at the very least, narrow out our scope here. If Xiaocheng, you mentioned that you sealed up the gates because of fear of ghosts arriving on
And demons.
Demons,
demons.
yes. I've been attempting to do my best forging letters back to the underworld in the hand of the various representatives they've been in contact with, but I worry their suspicions might be mounting. They might be knocking on the City of Heaven's door any time now, so to prevent a curious person from just popping up and peeking around, I've sealed the gates.
Yeah.
And you scoured the palace, yes?
I did.
Nothing suspicious?
Nothing out of the ordinary like here. Well, plates on the ground, food spilled, votive offerings toppled over as people carrying them suddenly vanished. But outside of that... Well, speaking of which, that's why the hole in the bridge was there. You know, floating above there was the Spear of Seven Storms. It's been floating above the apex of Taoli Bridge for generations now, but the magic sustaining it must have snapped when the mist came and took everyone, I suppose. So it fell and exploded, and there's the hole, though it was much smaller before the three of you got here.
Yeah. Xainan totally hides his face behind the brim of his hat and just kind of looks down at the goose like, this is between us. Don't tell them.
yeah, Goose is happily slobbering all over the hem of your robe and not saying anything.
With that, well, I suppose we should start investigating the liaisons, the broker's place.
I think that would be a good place to start.
And that's lower down. Seir is trying so desperately to pivot the conversation away from the bridge, because he sees Xainan like tucking his face beneath the hat, and he's just like, yeah. Which direction, Xiaocheng? We are
Just
new.
down. As you can see in the hole blasted through the bridge over here, that was, again, much smaller before you got here. If you would just come with me and lean over the precipice, and Xiaocheng gestures for the three of you to come right up to the edge of this hole.
Seir furrows his brows because he remembers a certain other event in the Wild Sea where he was asked to do the exact same thing, and then he quietly chastises himself. How could he look so suspiciously upon Xiaocheng? He should be kinder, like she was. And he leans over and does as he is told.
Next to Seir, Xainan steps forward and looks over. And there's almost a ghost of the memory of standing on the railing, haunting Xainan as he looks over at Seir. The same nose, brow, and he stops, just gives a ghost of a smile, and crouches down so that he can hold the ledge and look down without falling in.
Jesus Christ, Kai. Okay, what about Lumièra?
I want both of it. Don't Jesus fuck Val like you ain't start the bullshit. Don't even start. Don't even start. I'm the one in pain over here. The fuck. Let's see. Lumièra, opposite of them right now, she has a task. And not only a task, but a task that involves a library. Lumièra is over here, like tunneled vision on this. So she was probably the first to the railing and is looking over because she ain't have nothing to do with that explosion. Once again, that's
true.
That's the he hims. That ain't got shit to do with me. So
That has nothing to do with me either.
Yet.
We've been disowned.
Yet. Nothing to do with you yet. Yeah, so she's like looking over and still is trying to put these pieces together.
Sure. All three of you see a dizzying drop to the next layer of the city, essentially. So the city of heaven is comprised of these huge granite, beautiful oscillating mountain peaks upon which various courtyards and complexes are built. It's very much a tiered city, right? There's floating waterfalls and huge bridges that arch between various peaks. And the peaks are not all made equal. Some of them are much shorter than the others. And there's layers, like thick layers of different districts and neighborhoods titrating down, 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 and up, up, up. So as you look down, you see various sections just leading down, 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 apparently unending. And Xiaocheng points down and says, "It's at the very bottom of that." Well, at the very bottom being relative, of course, everyone knows the city of heaven is unending.
Well, I hope none of y'all skipped leg day. And Lumièra is like, let's go.
Seir leans down and says, "That's quite a ways down. Is there a faster way down, or do we just walk each layer?"
At that, Xiaocheng cocks their head to the side, a little bit confused and interested in what you said. Usually the gods just float down.
Oh.
That's...
And surely as such high-ranked and esteemed cultivators, it would be no issue to cast a small wind spell or some sort of levitation sutra.
Oh. Of course. That should be rather simple.
Yes, child's play.
100%.
Yes. I just didn't want to be impolite.
Excellent. Then I suppose it's best if we split up and cover some ground. Goose and I can go to either the Vermilion Library, I was thinking, or the White Forge. Either way, let's meet up at the gates of the Imperial Palace itself. How about tonight?
Sounds perfect. Tonight.
That's wonderful.
Excellent.
It's wonderful to find somebody in all this emptiness.
Oh, yes, it seems my prayers to the mist itself have been answered. I cannot overstate my gratitude to the three of you, and please, please, please do remember to keep this conversation to ourselves. I don't suppose you will run into anyone, but if you do, let me know as soon as possible, and if you run into anyone who is not from the City of Heaven, other mortals like yourselves, or a very persistent demon who might have popped through a seal, just like the three of you have, make sure to keep things under wraps as much as possible. We want to effect a display of strength and order.
And how do we contact you if something like that were to happen?
Oh. Well, I suppose I can leave Goose with you.
Xainan crouches down to Goose, kind of like holds out a hand to kind of tug a little bit of his hem away. You, good at finding each other?
Yes. I can basically tell wherever Goose ends up being in the City of Heaven. I wasn't expecting to form such a deep attachment to an animal. But here we are. The only
Birds have that effect.
Xiaocheng cocks their head to the side. Are you a fan of birds?
I have spent quite a bit of time with them.
What kinds of birds?
All sorts. Big.
Yeah, Xiaocheng waits for you to give more detail.
Some more peculiar ones, but also I've seen my fair share of geese and waterfowl.
Oh, yes, well, there were all sorts of divine beasts, bird-like beasts included in the City of Heaven, but they were also taken by the mists.
Hopefully
So
we
just
find them all.
you.
And
So
Goose.
just you, huh, Goose?
Goose lets go of Xainan's hem and lets out a honk. And Xiaocheng leans over and taps Goose on the head and speaks a spell word. Lienzia, poof, and magic ripples downward from Goose's feathers, ensconcing them in a bright orange glow for a second before settling back down. And Goose looks otherwise completely unchanged. Honk. Wonderful. Now you can tap him and speak unto him as though you were speaking unto me.
Wonderful. Tapping geese seems to be a very safe pastime here. Lumièra, you were interested in going to that library. Are you headed that way, or are we headed towards the Black River?
You know where I want to go, but if it would follow the mission better to head to the river, we can put the library off until later. Your call.
We can...
I mean, if our investigations show up not very much in the Black River, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to head back to the library after.
Fair enough. To the
Gives you
Black
more
River.
time, so you're not rushing either.
Lumièra just nods. Okay.
Excellent, then. Very well. We will meet again at the gates of the royal palace itself tonight. In the meantime, I wish the three of you the best of luck and fortune in your investigation. And Goose, make sure you behave. You're in front of polite company now.
We will see you this evening at the gates of the palace.
Xiaocheng nods. They turn, their robes billowing around their shins, and then they step up into the air as though there were a platform underneath them, but there's just wind. And they step over the edge of the railing, and they're off. They float through pure clouds and air and wind as though it were nothing at all to them, and then they vanish around a corner, swallowed up by the curve of a gorgeous garden-laden courtyard.
Lumièra
Goose
looks
a little
down.
lonely.
I was gonna say Lumièra looks down at Goose and then looks to Xainan and then down at Goose again and looks to Seir. You two are responsible for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, Lumièra. And Seir looks at the goose and knows he has no real experience with fowl. He's kind of just here. And he'll just like look over to Xainan and nod of the shared responsibility that they have.
And I'm
Congratulations! You're now dads to a goose.
Yeah. Lumièra's like, I'm not
Listen.
touching that with a pole.
This is Xainan's best day yet. He gets a goose.
Everyone's
So
like, woo! Xainan's like, Goose! Yes!
Yeah!
Yeah! Excellent. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say he looks down into this big hole where there was bridge and maybe was more bridge not long ago. Looks back to Lumièra. You got any bright ideas how to get down there? Really?
Actually, I do. I've been wanting to test this out.
Oh, thank God.
We'll see. I'm going to. This is what I want to do because you said way down, God's float, and I was like, oh, but what if fuckery? I want to create a liminal around all of us
Okay.
to carry us down to the bottom, essentially. And it's not going to like. We're still going to be walking, but I want it to speed up the time that it's going to take for us to walk all the way down the steps. So essentially, I'm kind of creating an escalator for us to cut our movement time in half.
Love
yeah,
that.
Sure,
Love
by
her.
taking like just stairs and ramps down, right? But with a liminal, so you're speeding it up. Okay, I think this attempt counts as channeling your power. So, to better aid our table's particular playstyle and the setting of City of Heaven, I have taken the liberty of hacking City of Mist's moves into 3 categories. This move we're about to invoke fits under Rift moves, which is what I've written, under Channel Your Power. So, when you channel your mythos or logos to overcome an obstacle, reshape the environment, or extend your senses, describe how your power flares and roll 2d6 plus tags. So, Lumièra, what tags are you invoking, and how does your power manifest around you as you attempt this?
I think how my power itself manifests, and then what was the first question in front of that? My brain got excited.
Just which tags you're using.
Oh, which tags I'm using. Okay. I'm going to use my creating liminals tag. And I also wonder if shielded by time would also be a interesting tag to use as well in this regard, if I can use both of them.
You know what? I'll allow it. You could also even use control of time under the pocket
yeah,
watch one.
actually I lied. I'm gonna use that one. So I'm gonna use creating liminals and control of time instead.
Excellent. I'm gonna invoke your weakness tag, which is
Okay.
doesn't understand its power.
Makes sense.
For your chronology, this is very new and you're attempting something very specific. So in total, that's a +1. But you can mark attention under pocket watch because I'm invoking the weakness tag.
Okay, cool.
And when we mark attention on a theme card, that means once you hit 3 attention on a theme card, you get to choose an improvement. And how you mark attention is whenever the GM or you yourself voluntarily invokes the weakness tag to basically like limit yourself for the sake of the story. Go ahead, Xainan.
I was just going to pitch a little bit of more mechanics of us all making a plan together. We have a mechanic for that.
We do have a mechanic for
Have
that.
a mechanic for that. Yes, we do.
That's true. So that the audience at the table also understands, in addition to each character having theme cards, you also have a crew theme, which in your case is Strike Team Nova, and your crew theme also grants you power tags that you can invoke. However, crew theme power tags are what's known as crispy. Essentially, once you use them, they're burnt, which means you can't use them again until you take a long time to reset them. So, the power tag I assume you're all going to invoke is the plan, which is under Strike Team Nova. So that would grant Lumièra another +1. So that's a +3 total, -1. So that's a +2. 2d6 +2. Go for it.
Okay, let me go to channel my power. 10.
Oh my god.
Thanks for
my God.
power
Hell yeah.
tag. Thanks for the crew
Yeah, that
tag,
was
'cause
needed.
That saved
That
it.
was needed.
That fucking
Okay.
saved it.
So on a 10+, the effect is exactly as intended. You do it. So Lumièra, describe to me what it looks like as your power flares out and you take everyone all the way to the bottom of the City of Heaven, relatively speaking.
I think what happens is almost a little bit similar to Sing's daises as she walks up. Lumièra's liminal works almost as if gears are orbiting around all of you. So it's like these gold spectral gears pop up around all of us and link together, and they all move in tandem with each other that operate in concentric circles around us as we walk. And you notice that time doesn't really change. It's almost as if the earth around us is still, if you're paying too close attention. You don't notice it while we're moving, but if you're just a little bit closer, the earth literally is still around us. Leaves that are falling from trees are stuck in space, almost frozen, until we reach the bottom and the daises and circles drop, gears drop, and then that's when everything moves back in time to the way it was supposed to.
Oh, that's so sexy. Oh, I love that so much. How are Seir and Xainan responding to this?
the moment that the gears begin to appear, Xainan immediately looks at his hands, looks at his, kind of looks under his kimono, actually, just kind of checks to make sure that he's not flaking away. The last time he saw this, truly the first time he really saw it, was Lumièra using this same power over liminals to unmake someone. So he wants to make sure that he's whole. He just became flesh and blood again, and he wants to make sure that that stays for a little while.
Seir looks at this with a very furrowed brow. He did not see this power in the Wild Sea. He was elsewhere. But he does remember of an old conversation under glittering lights at dim blue walls of an observatory. A budding power, an unknowable power. Something haunting beneath the surface, and Seir just stares at Lumièra, seemingly weaving this with aplomb, mastery. And all he says, looking at her, it clumsily falls out of his mouth. This is new. Right?
Lumièra stays silent just for a second too long. Seems as though we all have changed, haven't we?
Seir feels that arrow buried deeper into his chest. The arrow launched by Artemis, by Diego, and now by Lumièra. Well, I suppose so. And he smiles, and it's so shallow of a smile, but he wears it nonetheless. But that sure beats falling down. Don't want to do that again.
As the final clock gear grinds to a halt and then poosh, dissipates, you see a cherry blossom petal that was suspended in midair right next to you flutter past, specifically past Xainan's eyes, and then more regular leaves from a nearby tree as all of you find yourselves now in the midst of the Black River. So, it is a water town in the lowest tiers of the city of heaven. It is a flat, sprawling expanse of buildings and bridges stitched over a dense network of rivers and canals. Runoff from the divine lakes, rains, and waterfalls of the upper levels splash all the way down here, collected in overflowing ponds that gush past the Black River's infamous establishments. As you look around, you don't even need people here to understand what these buildings are. You see gambling houses, you see pleasure dens, you see luxurious restaurants, you even see temples, which is really interesting. On your way down here, nowhere else did you see even a single temple, because why would there be? The gods who would be worshipped would presumably be the peers and equals of everyone else here in the city of heaven. They're all around. And yet, the Black River contains temples, its shrines laden with offerings and merits and glistening gems. As you see this water town laid out before you, let's say the three of you are standing on the edge of a canal with a bridge near you, a gambling house to your back, a pleasure den across the river, and various temples and glittering establishments in the midst of festivities cut short. What do you do? How do you begin your investigation?
With a big grin on his face, Xainan looks around. This has an air of home to him. And I think the first thing after the gears fall away and he sees that cherry blossom petal, he follows it as it lands, and he looks up and is looking at the gambling house. Which of these places? And he finally looks away a little too long. do we think is a good place to start?
Well, and Seir like paces around and looks about all these spaces. It feels like an easy place to meet an information broker. It's at a gambling house. Everyone's distracted, placing their bets. Discreet.
Lots of money in and out.
Lots of money in and out.
Well, it makes sense. More people would be talking unabashedly, thinking that no one was around listening,
Yeah.
hiding in plain sight.
And there's enough weapons usually around in a gambling house to stop anything bad that no one wants. Xainan steps forward towards the gambling house, and I think as he does, he unconsciously begins to think about all of the people coming in and out, just what it looks like in an active gambling house, and is looking over the exterior, trying to discern the types of people, what it looks like a gambling house full of gods in the city of heaven. What does that even look like? And I think as he does, he begins to almost ask the city itself what is here as he looks over the building. And as he does, there's almost a bass note, an echo that comes from him. And as he is trying to look over all of this and understand the landscape of where they are, essentially, I would like to pitch a move, Connie, as he investigates. As he is looking, I would love for him to unknowingly manifest a power tag of unspoken eulogies. All of the people, all of the places of people that aren't here, absent shapes of beings, and also echoes of who he was, and he unknowingly dips into his ghost form. And I would like to investigate using weird ghost powers.
I'm gonna say that's more of a gaze into the mist move. Especially if it's unintentional and you're slipping into it, I'm gonna counter pitch. So gaze into the mist is a rift move. So when you gaze into the mist for answers or signs, describe what you're looking for and roll 2d6 plus tags. So what are you looking for, Xainan?
Xainan is looking for the place where the familiar types of people who would be going to an information broker. So maybe clever-eyed people who are trying to stay clear, who are looking around and that kind of stuff. Not people who are there to have a good time and, go to a pleasure den or go gamble.
Sure. Okay, yes. So you're specifically looking for interesting clientele that might have come in and out of this establishment. Excellent. So which tags are you attaching to this?
Besides the, I actually think it's going to be untethered existence for his mythos tag, and resourceful criminal from his logos, everyone and no one. And I think that's all I've got.
I'm going to invoke your mythos weakness tag. Can you read it out loud to me?
A closed door.
Yeah, this is completely unintentional. So that door, I think, maybe it's not even cracking open. This is mist flowing through the bottom of the door through the crack there, right? So if you were open, you would maybe get more intentionality, more thoughtfulness from what the mist might speak back to you. As it is, you're unaware of yourself even doing this. So that's going to be a -1 from that weakness tag. And feel free to mark attention on that mythos theme. And a +2, I believe, from the other power tags, making it a total of a +1.
All right.
Go for it.
Oh, hell yes.
Him redemption.
12.
Oh my god,
He-Him redemption.
What the hell?
My
Damn,
dice said
okay.
yes, a 6 and a 5.
Oh my god! So on a 10 plus, the mist shows you lucid visions and a clear path forward. Xainan, what does it look like when you slip into your ghost form?
As Xainan looks over at the exterior of this large gambling house, something familiar happens that you all saw at least once. As he steps forward, wisps of dust begin to trail off of him, almost like he is in stop motion. Where he was, instead of a trail per se, it's like just an image of him, an after image for just a moment, left in dust, fading out, fading out, fading out. He steps forward, and with every step, you see, especially if we were still in different time in a liminal, you could see each footfall leaving a trail that slowly disappears behind him of steps. And he overlays this moment with the image of people entering a not so fancy gambling house. Faces blurred but familiar as he steps forward in a different street, on a different plane at a different time in his life, and looks over the space and begins to try and fill in the faces that were familiar to him once with the faces of the divine from here.
Damn, okay, Xainanesh, you walk the line, and the edges of your own being here in the City of Heaven begin to fade. From your perspective, it's as though a fine mist settles over both of these visions. The vision of a not-so-fancy gambling house with familiar people, and the vision of a very extravagant, luxurious, over-the-top gambling house that is here in front of your face in the City of Heaven. And everybody, this gambling house, it's marvelous. It's one of the few buildings in the City of Heaven that's also tall, in addition to being broad. There are multiple levels here. This ground floor has a stone ramp that leads up into open gates beyond which you can just smell the remnants of incense and cigarette smoke. And the doors are flanked by these two huge stone carvings of guard lions with these vicious looking faces, their clawed paws on top of spheres, magical spheres. On the next level, you see a balcony that juts out, made of pure, dark, beautiful mahogany, an overhang of pure black tiles. Glazed ceramic, but glimmering like deepest night, like bolts of obsidian layered on top of each other, like a demon's teeth, titrating all the way upward to a beautiful spire that winds up, and almost scrapes the underbelly of a stone bridge from the higher level, arcing above your heads. This establishment is grand. It's beautiful. And Xainanesh, you see its patrons. At first, just a murmur of ghostly forms like yours with no real faces, no real names, no real countenances. It's so hard to see what used to be here without actually being there. But then, because you got a 12, clarity begins to etch into these forms. You see beautiful flowing robes. You see long hair, short hair, tall, short, broad, thin, all manner of gods coming in and out of the establishment. You see after images of someone being thrown out onto the street by a huge bouncer, their cheeks flushed with wine. They hit the ground and they tumble into the canal. You see a ghostly splash. You feel water that isn't actually there splash onto the hem of your trousers. And then, cutting through the crowd, bright, an actual real person, someone important, a named clientele. You see a woman. Oh my god, Xainanesh, what a woman. 6'4", light brown skin, short black hair slicked up and back out of her face. You see elegant, deep crimson robes with golden trim and emerald decorations. A crown of jewels rests atop their head, and their steps all the way up into the gambling house leave fiery markings in their wake. You see eyes, red, pure crimson eyes, alive with energy and power. This woman radiates power. She vanishes into the crowd, into the gambling house, and your eyes are drawn upward to the balcony, and you see someone else, a person, standing there leaning over the railing with a long cigarette holder and a something to smoke at the end of it, trailing smoke up into the heavens. You see the owner of this establishment, in fact, the owner of all these establishments, a short, slight god with light brown skin and bright silver hair shorn at the sides. They wear pure black robes, the same color as the black tiles above them, with a white sash and bright blue trim. Her face is quick, fox-like, with slitted black eyes, the same color as their robes, and the tips of his fingers, you see as they hold the cigarette holder, are pure black, fading all the way up their arms. You also see a white snake, an actual living white snake draped across Tada's shoulders with a bright pink tongue flicking in and out. They take one easy final drag on the cigarette holder, and as ghostly smoke goes up, they hear something you don't hear. They turn, and you see that the woman that entered, the fiery, powerful woman, is now standing at the mouth of the balcony, saying something to them. And then you're pulled right back into the now.
The spectral dust falls like someone dropped it. And Xainan doesn't seem to know that happened as he's looking up. I think this is the place, and he's looking up at the balcony. He doesn't even look back at everyone else.
Seir looks at you as if he smelt something so familiar, dust. The same dust he stared into many, many years ago when he first laid eyes upon you. And he blows it out of his nose, attempting to push that side of him away. Up there, Xainan? You see something?
In a sense, the city gave me some. There's a.
Alright.
I think that the owner, overseer, person in charge very well could have a bit of information up there.
Good work, Ajanesh. And Lumièra says it through gritted teeth, almost trying to calm herself. She saw it, and I think that same gut reaction to when you first disappeared on us is immediately triggered until you came back, so she dials it down. We have a lead.
If
work.
that's where the owner does their activities, then bit of caution then. There might be security measures still in place. Alright. Cool. I think Seir sees the tension, nods, and stands there for maybe a heartbeat too long, and begins kind of stepping into the establishment itself. Breathes a sigh just so that he can steady himself. There's some relief not having to stare at their faces and pretend and wear a mask, so he focuses. I will start climb. There's like it's a spiral staircase, if I'm understanding it correctly, to head up to where the owner is, or the area that Xainan saw.
So you're right in front of the gambling house. There's a ramp that leads into it, and presumably the way to get to the higher levels is inside the building that you haven't seen yet. There's a balcony kind of like overhanging over the top of the ramp.
Do I do something silly? I think I do something silly.
Be silly.
I'm gonna do something silly. Can I climb up to it? Climb up straight to the balcony.
Oh my god.
The balcony is like 20 feet above your head, so you can try to jump and grab onto it if you want, or like climb up the facade of the building and then hop onto the balcony.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do the latter.
As
and
Seir attempts this, what about Lumièra and Xainan? Are you just watching him do this, or do you do something else?
Oh, I'm watching. I want to see how.
Just
this
taking a quick
happens.
peek.
All right.
What about Xainan? Okay.
Xainan kind of steps forward. He felt the tone of the three of them all kind of fall into the basement. And is purposefully walking forward like, we're just agents, this is fine, nothing strange is happening. And he's just like, yeah, another agent is gonna go do some recon, and is stepping forward, not jumping to help Seir do this thing, but is not far off should, maybe he plummet from a great height.
Okay, yes. Sounds good, Seir. How do you attempt to scale the side of this building?
I think Seir walks past the guard lions, and he stares at them, and there's a weird pull that makes him want to touch it, and he won't. And he quickly sprints past it and walks towards maybe a pillar or some sort, so that he can maybe begin by climbing up, then if need be, use his crescent blade to help anchor himself as he moves just methodically up. He's not going to do any fancy tricks, but as he's doing this, he's remembering in his mind the way Singwall climbs. And Singwall climbs the wall with such precision, but also with speed. There is an efficiency in the way the Chosen One does things. And he can't help but think of her and the way she moves as he also climbs the space.
Okay, Seir, I'm gonna need you to tempt fate. So when you tempt fate with your actions,
Okay.
describe what perilous feat you're trying to accomplish and roll plus mythos. That's how many mythos cards you have.
Oh, okay. So just +2, just the cards, not any of the tags. So I'll
Nope,
just...
just how many cards you have. Is that a 2?
Plus
Okay, this
2.
is a move I wrote. I pulled it from Godkiller, which is a game I wrote. It's a Rift move now in City of Heaven, which is the name of my hack for City of Mist. So go for it.
Okay.
Lumièra just pulls out a piece of stabilizing gum out of her coat and then just like sticks it on like a braid. Like her hair is like one of her braids is like clipped up into her hair off, like pushing it off over to the side. She just sits it in there because she knows she's gonna need it.
Wow, does that count as hinder your crewmate?
Would you like to, Lumièra?
Do you want to
Would you
hinder
like
me?
to
funny.
hinder Seir?
No, I don't want to hinder because he hinders himself all by their lonesome. I don't have to help at all.
Wow, Sam's just gonna execute him right here and now.
All right, I've rolled. Okay, so that's +2, right? That's an 8 total. Sorry, 7
8 total. 7. Okay, barely shy of a miss. That is a mixed success. So Seir, you triumph over this specific ordeal, but attract the attention of your enemies. They react immediately. And we're gonna find out what that means when we come back from break. Thank you
Damn it, Connie!
Thank you so much for tuning in so far. We'll be back in just about 10 minutes. Enjoy the fan art reel if you're on Twitch. Check out our link in bio if you're on TikTok. See you in 10 minutes. Bijou.